there's a concept of illegitimate children. Nevertheless, the Torah doesn't say abort them. It's not about family honor. It's about life. Life comes first. We should start off with the of course with Moses, because he's the featured speaker and he's got plenty to do. So let's just quote from him first. So in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, God spells out that first I'll say it in the original prophecy in the Hebrew, and then I'll say the English translation. This is verse 19 of chapter 30. I call heaven and earth today to bear witness against you. I have placed life and death before you, blessing and curse. You shall choose life so that you will live, you and your offspring. You and your offspring. So, so therefore, I mean, God says it explicitly, and anyone who tries to co-opt, the word of God to saying that it supports, chasing down babies in the mother's womb, would have a serious problem of legitimacy. So, there's a concept of illegitimate children. Nevertheless, the Torah doesn't say abort them. It's not about family honor. It's about life. Life comes first. And there's a link between the life of the parent and the life of the children. You and your offspring shall live. So, even if God gives life in this world, how do you expect life of the next world if you're running after, trying to hurt babies like that? It's just the hypocrisy got to me. I can't stand people saying that God would support this when explicitly he literally says you and your offspring should live, choose life, and he equates curse with death. So so now let's look at this from the perspective of the arguments of the those who are mistakenly advocating the wrong thing. So let's talk about the mother, not even the child. Not being able to pursue a lifestyle choice can be frustrating, but then you still have other choices in the future because you're alive. Now, if the point is to give more free will to women, what about the babies who are aborted? Over 60 million since Roe v. Wade was passed in 1973, and at least half of them are girls. So that means over 30 million women have been denied the opportunity to have any choices whatsoever. Now let's look at it as from an ethical perspective. We're teaching mothers to be cruel and arrogant, to put their lifestyle choice before the needs of the children. And historically, the woman has been the foundation of society. In the ancient Hebrew world, the woman was at the center, and the man was the supporter of it. So, in other words, men were supporters of society, women were society. And it's not obvious because, the Torah is trying to teach people who may be on an ethical quandary. And the Talmud says explicitly that women were created closer to God than men. So therefore, the Torah has to speak from a man's perspective often, because they're the ones most likely to make an ethical mistake without any kind of education. However, we have a new phenomena in our generation where women are making ethical choices that are bad. And even when men stand back and say it's the woman's choice, they're still making these bad choices. So a possible foundation for this could be that some of the founders of the pro-abortion movement were actually trying to overemphasize women's lib. To overemphasize women's lib was a desire to have equal footing in economic matters. To have equal footing with economic matters, that means you are competing with men. If you compete at the male level, now you create ethical quandaries for yourself. I hear so many people nowadays talking about they want organic foods and nature and all that stuff, except in one area, inside their own bodies, they don't want nature. So I think we have another aspect about what's going on here, is that people are trying not to think about the consequences. And we have all these different ideas and philosophies being espoused that have nothing to do with reality. It's just a good obfuscation of the emotional realities. There are women left devastated after they have an abortion, going with the extreme liberal philosophy of pro-choice at all costs. It's literally at all costs. It's a sword that cuts every way. And so if we're talking about women, it's setting up women for a worse guilt, a worse depression, potentially being unable to work. All that they did, that they don't realize the torment they went through, ended up hurting them more than if they had the child. And then day in, day out, they would have had something that was cuter than bunnies in their house to play with. Instead, they have guilt for endless days. And how is that benefiting women? And it's not addressed. So there are more women going through depression than there are women who have babies, even, God forbid, from rape. So why is that not being addressed? Because it's not expedient for the process of being a pro-abortion. And if you mess with that, then you're messing with women's economic power, empowerment, whatever it is. And again, this is a point we raised earlier. Over 30 million girls were never allowed to be women. So, I mean, how is that pro-choice? Only the pro-life side is talking about giving all women a choice. So let me put out a theoretical. Let's say someone had a dying grandmother, and they had a choice of going away to college with their friends, or taking care of their grandmother in the last days of her life, and then catching up with their friends the next year. So what choice do you think would leave that person a better person for the rest of their life? That they got to be drunk a few more times with their friends at a party and not even remember it, in all likelihood, or that they took a little extra time to be there for their grandmother and create a bond that will last beyond this world. If you have the baby and decide to put it up to adoption, you could regret that, but later eventually meet the child for lunch. Okay, so if you do something that you don't know what it's like until you do it, so that's risky. If you do it repeatedly and you're only talking about your rights, that's extremely selfish. And that's even if it wasn't talking about bloodshed. And at another level, the perversion I hear from non-Orthodox rabbis who talk about the Talmudic or rabbinical support in history for abortion. We're talking about it's only under the most extreme circumstances of duress. And then if there's going to be an abortion, let's say, think about it 2,000 years ago. If someone there was a breech baby or something, the umbilical cord was tied around the baby's neck, a C-section would probably mean the death of the mother. So it was a horrible situation. So probably that would be a circumstance where an abortion may be necessary. But even then, for example, if the baby had been born, the head came out first, it would no longer be an option to give an abortion, even if the mother's life was still in danger. If you come from an ethical, moral perspective, it's hard to comprehend how low we've sunk. But it's easy to comprehend why we're still there, because people are refusing to consider ethical and moral concerns. If in the case of, for example, Bible debates, people are trying to defend their perspective of religion. But there's really no heresy like the heresy that leads to bloodshed. And again, we're talking about over 60 million people who never had a choice. But again, according to some proponents of abortion, only the girls have a bearing in this discussion. It's her body, her choice, unless it's her mother's body, and then she doesn't have a choice. Just imagine that someone who was in a trench in World War I, they're a soldier. He's surrounded by all of his friends. Then there was a grenade. Everyone but him died, and he's covered in bodies of his former friends, and he has to dig his way out of it. Okay, and we're talking just about a handful of people. If we're talking about millions and millions of bodies torn to bits by healers, I wouldn't. There should be some sort of method to take back that healer designation. The basic concept in Torah is life. If with the Sabbath, if there's a threat to life, the Talmudic law is to push aside the laws of the Sabbath. Don't even consider them. It's just appalling to me when I see the name Rabbi and then a pro-abortion piece. It's a blessing to have life. Women are given that blessing more than men. Even life expectancy, right? So as the foundation of life, the ultimate pinnacle of spirituality in this world, women have to be the moral leaders of the world. You can't do that if you're involved in ethically questionable activities. Historically, we find that God is patient with even idolatry. We find by the Canaanites that God ordered their destruction. Why? Because the Torah says explicitly that they were sending their children through the flames. They were committing child sacrifice. So it's the ultimate heresy, and God has indicated life and blessing, or the opposite. And only by idolatry that leads to bloodshed did God command a nation be wiped out. So, but let's not even think of it from a national perspective. Think about it from an individual perspective. How before God can you expect to get to heaven if you are pursuing this and encouraging others to pursue abortion? It's just mind-boggling, and it's a deception, and it has to be opposed.
I'm the news that nobody expected. I was never a part of your plan. I'm the reason why life as you know it feels like it's slipping through your trembling hands. And the doctors say I'm just an option, a mistake you can make disappear. I may not have a voice, but I'm more than a choice. I'm as real as the heartbeat you hear. So don't close the book on me yet. I've still got a long way to go. Empty pages to fill, and the best part is still down the road. Oh, I am a story untold. I am God's miracle in the making, proof that all things can work for the good. I am fingers and toes, and heaven already knows the name you pick out for me already belongs to me. So don't close the book on me yet. I've still got a long way to go. Empty pages to fill, and the best part is still down the road. Oh, I am a story untold. Every life is sacred, and every life is a gift, and every life deserves a chance to live. I know you're scared, I know you're scared, I know you're scared right now. But when you hear my first cries, and when you look in my eyes, you'll understand why you brought me to life. So don't close the book on me yet. I've still got a long way to go. Empty pages to fill, and the best part is still down the road. Oh, I am a story untold. May there be abundant peace from heaven and good life upon us and upon all Israel. Amen.